Great. Terrific. Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to meet you, Danielle. And I have to say, your team has done a magnificent job of making sure that everything was taken care of in order for you to be here and have the conversation with me. And I'm quite appreciative of that. So thank you.
Great, a pleasure.
I'd love to start just because Teleperformance, although an incredibly large global company with lots of impact, I was not familiar with prior to Peter reaching out to me. So I'd love if you could just start with some sort of broad brushstrokes and tell me about Teleperformance and your vision for it. And then we can talk more about, I want to hear about you and your leadership, the industry, what's going on there. But let's just start with Teleperformance sort of, and what was your vision, and tell me about the company.
Well, first, it's normal that you were not familiar with Teleperformance because our main quality is to be transparent. We are like chameleon because we are embedded, serving, helping the customers of our larger clients, and we serve this customer in the name of our clients. So Teleperformance is not made to be a brand name for the consumer. So now, what is Teleperformance? I'm going to make it super short. 44 years. 44 years ago, I was very young, and I decided to use the telephone as a commercial and marketing tools to help the companies to be more efficient in their sales process and in the service process. And since 1978, Teleperformance has been surfing waves and technological waves. The first one was, thanks to the Moore law, the ability to have enough power to get data online, and so to be smarter in online interaction. The second one has been the mobile phone. The third one has been the internet service provider. The fourth one has been internet plus mobility, the smartphone, and then the social media, and tomorrow the blockchain and the metaverse. And all these waves that Teleperformance has served, our purpose have been to be professional, smart enough, expert enough to become the help of the largest company to adjust to the new environment.
Wow, that is a lot of waves to have been so successful at reaching. I always think about these things as S curves, right? And you get to the top of the S curve, you want to catch the next one before the first one goes down. So congratulations on that. And I know you just released record performance, record growth in 2021. So it sounds like you're still going really fabulously there. I hear you that you're behind the client, sort of making things happen in a sort of an infrastructure way. So who is your ideal client? How do you find clients, given that you are stealth, if you will?
Okay. First, we are today the largest company in this activity in the world. So we have more than 1,000 clients in every activity sector. But typically, our clients are companies who have a large consumer base. Why? Because since the mid-2000s, the consumer has taken the power in the relationship with the company he buys a product or service from. And so, any consumer, you, me, if something is wrong, we want to be able just to have an immediate interaction and to find our problem to be solved. Otherwise, we are not loyal. So the development of customer service and the explosion of the interaction has been the driver of Teleperformance success. And that's the reason why the perfect client for us is the large global client, dynamic, high-tech, and who has a large customer base.
Okay. So if you do what I think you do, I can certainly understand the importance of customer service. What are the main activities that Teleperformance provides for its clients?
In fact, we are an outsourcer and we manage the customer experience. So it's pre-sales, sales, customer service, tech support, soft collection, and many activities around the customer experience, which can be middle office, back office. For example, for the banks, we can work on KYC, know your client. We can work on money laundering and stuff like that. So it's very diverse. If we work for an airline company, we are going to help for the reservation, but we are also going to help when something goes wrong. I mean, you miss a plane, you need to take another plane, you don't know what will be the price. These are the type of services that we deliver. And we help also the governments.
Yeah, I'm sure I will have interacted with your company at some point in time, given who you work with. Do you have a customer service philosophy that you expound?
Our purpose is to reduce the friction that exists between a customer or a citizen and the company or the government is interacting with. And so we are a people company. We use a lot of technology, but we are an army of service. So we are a force of good. We don't like friction. We try to reduce frictions.
I love being a force for good and reducing friction. I mean, that's a vision, a mission that people can get behind, clearly understand, and can see how their action contributes to that every day. So you could not be more clear. It's great. So you've been leading this company, you said, for 44 years. So it's highly unusual and I think laudable for someone to be an effective leader, not just the length of time, but the different stages that the company has gone through. I was a very early employee at Compaq Computer, if you remember them. We hadn't shipped any computers, we didn't have any revenue. And as part of the leadership team, I got to see and be part of that company growing from no revenue to about 15 billion and to about 17,000 employees, which is small by your standards, but was a big leap for us. And I saw people, just leaving because they didn't want to be part of that next phase or they weren't able. But here you've been able to evolve as a leader through all of these phases and to do it globally to now the point of 400,000 people. So first, congratulations on that. But secondly, how do you do that? What do you attribute your success to? What can others learn from you?
First, you have to remain humble because the success is for yesterday and you have to build the success of tomorrow.
Yes.
Second, I think that curiosity is a quality number one.
Yes.
To be curious, to understand what is behind the curtain, to understand the motivation of the people, to understand the different culture. And in fact, I think my appetite to know the different cultures of the world has been a big driver for me to build a global company. But then, that's why I said humble. You learn by managing. You manage better by managing. It's like you learn by teaching. I mean, there is no way I could have a master plan 44 years ago for what we are today. Absolutely no way. It's just that it's a little bit like Penelope, in Odysseus. I mean, by putting every night your work and redoing it every night you become a little bit more agile. Every night you become a little bit more professional. You understand a little bit more the pitfalls. And there is something also super important is to have the people with you. And that's why a strong company culture is critical. For us at Teleperformance, we have a set of 5 values. Integrity. Integrity is I say what I do and I do what I say. Respect, I treat the way I would like to be treated. Professionalism, I do the things right the very first time. Innovation, I'm curious and I innovate. And commitment, I'm engaged. And so these 5 values, we say to our managers all over the world. There is more or less 20,000 managers at Teleperformance. And we say them all over the world, guys, there is a set of values. We have a strategy. Now, in the day-to-day delivery, you are going to make a lot of decisions by yourself. Each time you make a decision, make sure that this decision is compliant with the 5 values. If it's compliant with the 5 values, it's okay. Even if we are not successful, we will change. If you make a decision, even if you are successful with this decision, but if it's not compliant with the 5 values, we have an issue. So, and I think the people love that because it's a company, Teleperformance is an adventure, is a company with a purpose. We try to be a force of good. We are very much engaged in environment and social responsibility. We try to be a force of good in the communities where we interact by supporting school in the slums, in the favela, and so many things. And TP people super happy to be member of TP family. It's not an autocracy. It's a sense of belonging.
So you created this ecosystem that people self-select into and then want to remain because of the strong culture that you have. Again, applause. I spoke with Daniel Julien, who's the Chief Sustainability Officer for SAP last week. And again, another phenomenal company with this strong culture that people self-select into and a true commitment to global social responsibility. Can you give me some examples of some of the efforts or successes that Teleperformance has had in those areas?
Okay, you know, we started way before it was in fashion in the business. We created Citizen of the World, and Citizen of the World was to help the kids to get an education in the communities where we can operate, and you know, the less favorized kids, you know, the people who are not at school. And it's fantastic, it's touching, and the results bring tears when you are there. I mean, it's fantastic. And Citizen of the Planet has always been to be very cautious about the environment. We started this in the I think 2005 or 2006 or 2007, I don't remember. So it has been 15 years against of sedimentation of this activity that is part of our culture. And we have raised dozens of millions of dollars over the years that are distributed, the NGOs that are dedicated to and professional to manage the money the best possible way. And I would say a large part of our employees contribute. Teleperformance typically love to match the contribution of its employees because so it's a common effort. I like to match contribution also personally because all of us, it's just because all of us were happy to do that. We just think that this is the reason why we are alive.
Yeah, I think when we get out of our own way mentally, those impulses come through to give and to do good. And you've created a system here where that is not only possible, but encouraged. So that's great.
It's not that I created, I mean, I would say it's a combination of, you know, TP, we always say TP, Teleperformance. Okay. We always say we are a pack. The leaders, we lead as a pack.
A pack, yeah.
A pack. We help each other. We can be aggressive. I mean, on the business, we tend to be very aggressive. We are respectful of our competitors, but you cannot put a piece of paper to separate the leaders of the executive committee of TP, for example.
Wow. You must have some cadence of meetings, some methodology in place it's one thing to obtain that alignment, but you maintain it over time. How do you maintain that?
Two periods, pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Of course.
Pre-COVID, it has been by doing walking around management. I learned that 40 years ago from Tom Peters when he was explaining how some Walmart was visiting, even when he was very old, with his old truck, visiting his stores, checking if there was dust, visiting the toilets. This is what I've done for dozens of years. I think that the plane was my most frequent bed.
Yes.
That's the first one. So being on the field, interacting with the people, listening to the people, getting ideas. Then something that has helped, we have always been obsessional about sharing best practices. And at the same time, we are obsessional about sharing best practices. We are obsessional about being very lucid with ourselves. Where are we strong? Where are we weak? What is the gap? How are we going to close the gap? And we call that, this is business discipline, we call that real-time transformation. And this is what are the next 30 days, what are the next 60 days, what are the next 90 days. Any issue needs to have found a significant part of its solution within 90 days. When we acquire a company, every integration has to be done in 90 days. And it's not 90 days, it's 30, 60, 90.
Right. Yeah.
And so we have a discipline, and this discipline is not ideological. This discipline is the magic of the numbers. We love the number, we love the data, we cross the data, we connect the dots. This is our obsession. And we try to find sense to sets of data to improve what we are doing.
Wow, I love the discipline because that's what it takes to be successful. You also seem to have this, I've always thought there's a bias for action that successful companies and people have, but there also has to be a tolerance for ambiguity, because if you take the action too quickly, right, you miss significant data that will help you make a good decision. And so you have found a way to balance those two things so that not all decisions need to be taken immediately, but there is also a time when they must be taken by.
Yeah, you learn that with the years.
You learn that with the years, exactly.
You know, there was a French president, because I'm born French,
Yes.
who used to say, give time to the time. Not everything is going to be addressed at the same time, at the same day. First, you have priorities, clearly. Second, you need to be able to understand the concept of low-hanging fruits. I mean, what are the 20% of actions that you can take that are going to change 80% of the situation? And so you cannot pretend that you are a pure scientist. We are dealing with the world, and the world moves, I mean, is polymorph. There are things that we don't like that we need to live with as long as we can continue positively. And so, I mean, Teleperformance is all about tolerance and diversity. Cultural diversity, people diversity, gender diversity, racial diversity, if racial is something that exists. I'm still not convinced, and so on.
Yeah. And you can't be successful. I think you can't be successful at all without it. You certainly can't be successful long-term and globally without that commitment. So, yeah.
It's super important to understand that for me, it's super important. History is something great. The philosopher of history is even greater. There was this fantastic world historian called Arnold Toynbee, who wrote the lesson of history and who made the comparison between the different culture, and you see how the civilization, how they grow and how they die. And this teaches you a lot in the business. I mean, I think that in the business, you learn, it's good to learn a little bit of finance, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of business rules, but you learn so much more thanks to history, philosophy, and sociology, ethnology, and stuff like that.
Yeah. All of which you learn over time. Did you have a background in those things when you started Teleperformance?
I was not the most diligent student you could imagine. So when I started Teleperformance, I was very young. I had a bachelor in economic science, but in economic science, in international economics, so a little bit of everything.
Yes.
But I always loved. I was always curious. I always loved history, philosophy, and so on. And I really think that I've built Teleperformance at the same time with the book of Philippe Kotler, the big Bible of marketing management. At the
Yes.
time, it was, the reference, and Michael Porter a little bit later. But at the same time, so many books of history, and even so many novels coming from the countries where I wanted to launch Teleperformance and to operate. So when I went to Mexico, I wanted to read Mexican authors. When I went to Brazil, I wanted to know Jorge Amado. When I went to China, I wanted to read Moyan, because you start to understand and you start to respect. And the day you start to respect, you can start to make deals.
Oh, love that. Thank you. I wish I could zoom in on my bookcases for you. I've never known whether my curiosity or my problem solving came first. They're completely intertwined now, but that's what I did in 2020. I read European history as a start because it was a blind spot, and it's just so important. And I will make sure that message gets out loud and clear to anyone who sees this. While we're talking about those sort of bigger things, let's talk about the industry for a moment. So what's happening in your industry? You mentioned, sort of blockchain is next, metaverse is next. How are you thinking about that? How are you preparing for it? How are you impacted by it as an organization?
What is happening and started to happen maybe 4 or 5 years ago to the whole economy is the digital transformation.
Yes.
And the digital transformation has created two types of companies, the disruptors and the disrupted. The disruptors typically are the digital platform. The disrupted are typically the brick and mortar. But the history is not written, because we discover that the disruptors, even if you have the scale theory do not always work as well as it was said in terms of sustainability. And the disruptor can build some kind of digital strengths that help them to manage. For us, Teleperformance, of course, as soon as we saw the development of the AI, the robotic process automation, the bots, the big data analytics, and so on, we decided to embrace it. Not to be afraid, because we had our army of service thinking, oh my God, this is going to replace us. No, we said, oh great, this is going to enhance our capacities. Maybe I was influenced, because it doesn't come just like that. I think I was influenced by Kasparov, who was so sad when he lost against Big Blue, but then wrote a book, and in his book he said, artificial intelligence is going to enhance the human capacities. And so we are jumping to that, and it has helped us to build solutions that are simpler, faster, better, more cost-effective for our clients. And we think we are going to see that more and more, and it helps somehow to take care of a lot of objective data. Thanks to the artificial intelligence, we can have the data immediately online and so on. But so our people, our large army of service, can focus on the emotional side of the relation. And you know, when there is an interaction, it's not just all about rational.
No.
There is a lot of emotional to take care, and then you put the little grain of salt of the rational.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So our time is almost up. I have a final question for you. In my consulting business, my tagline is up and to the right, because that's the place on a 2x2 matrix where we always want to be. So if you think back on your career, was there a moment or an event where you knew that you in your career were moving up and to the right? I know you're very humble. I hope you can think of a moment where this was true for you.
To me, it has always been, I don't know how to say that. It's not a brilliant image, but I remember this advertising for Johnny Walker with keep walking.
Yes, keep
And
walking.
for us, it has always been keep walking, and do the best you can.
Oh, love that. Well, Danielle, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your time.